So the first All Black squad of 2025 has just been announced. Scott Robertson announcing a 33-man squad with 2 extra players as injury cover, some big names missing out, some massive inclusions of debutants, and in this video we'll be looking through at them all and letting you know exactly what we think of this side. But jumping straight into it, first of all, the hookers. We did see Cody Taylor, Samisoni Taukei'aho, and a bit of a curveball was Brodie McAllister, a new cap for the All Blacks. He's been playing off the bench for the Chiefs, but obviously has caught the eye of Scott Robertson and the selectors. Now, he is actually an ex-Crusaders player, Brodie McAllister, so I'm sure Scott Robertson has seen him throughout the years, and I do think it's a decent choice. He has gone a little bit under the radar, I would say, for this season. It was talked about whether or not it would be Asafo Aumua, George Bell, or perhaps Ioane Moananu. But in this case, we found out that Aumua is injured and Bell just coming back from his injury, so they have gone with McAllister instead. In terms of the props for the loose heads, they have got Ethan de Groot, Tamaiti Williams, and also a new cap for Ollie Norris. He really has stepped up throughout the season, looked great in the Super Rugby final, actually ended up top 5 in terms of running meters for the Chiefs throughout that game, so definitely deserves the call up, and a massive congratulations to him. For the tight heads, about what everyone expected, Pasili Otosi, Tyrell Lomax, and also Fletcher Newell. There were a few injury concerns regarding Newell, but luckily that has been cleared up, that he will be all right to play for the ABs. Moving on to the rest of the forwards, the captain as one of the locks, Scott Barrett, with this one taking place in Taranaki. In terms of the announcement location, does make sense that not just one Barrett, but all 3 were in the side as well. Fabian Holland as a new cap. He's had an outstanding season for the Highlanders. Thoroughly deserves it. He's had massive numbers when it comes to line-out steals as well as dominant tackles, so could really bring some physicality. He's a massive unit and a massive player to have in that All Blacks environment as well. Patrick Tuipulotu and Tupou Vaa'i, the other 2 locks that the All Blacks did select. Samipeni Finau, Luke Jacobson, Duplessis Karefi. Great news for that man. Ardie Savea and Wallace Satiti, they will be the loose forwards. Now, there is a little bit of an asterisk next to Luke Jacobson, and that is after the head knock that he took in the Super Rugby Pacific final. Now, he was actually able to go back out onto the field as he passed his HIA. I have no idea how, but he has got the asterisk because they've got injury cover for him in the way of Christian Leo Willie. So another fella from the Crusaders does find himself into the AB's environment. Wallace Satiti, I feel like since his injury, he's come back, he's looked strong. Duplessis Karefi and Ardie Savea, both in the top 3 for turnovers won throughout Super Rugby Pacific. Karefi, his size gets talked about a lot, but man does he pack a punch and will do great things in that All Blacks kit. But moving on to the backs. For the 3 halfbacks, no surprises whatsoever. Noah Hotham, Cortez Ratama, and Cam Roigard as the last option. Now, I do think that Roigard will get quite a few starting minutes throughout this year, and I'd say Ratama is probably their second choice. Although in the Super Rugby Pacific final, Noah Hotham certainly stepping up, so could find himself with a few minutes as well. Beauden Barrett and Damian McKenzie, the 2 selected fly halves with Geordie Barrett, Rieko Ioane, Anton Lienert-Brown, and Billy Proctor as the last man. Now, there is the injury of Anton Lienert-Brown at the moment, which does mean Amoni Narawa is his injury cover. Now, I have to say, for that man to have missed out is pretty brutal. He's had a phenomenal season, and yes, you could argue that he is still in the team, but he's got to be one of those players you have as a full-time member of the squad rather than just an injury cover guy. Now, there is a chance that Anton Lienert-Brown may not even play any minutes throughout this July internationals, in which case Amoni Narawa would get those opportunities. But there is also the chance that Narawa sadly may not get the AB's minutes that he does thoroughly deserve. Now moving on to the rest of the backs, Timothy Tavatavanawa. There will be so many people who are happy to see that man's name in there. The most turnovers won throughout the season, beating over 70 defenders. The man is an absolute tank. He covers 12. He can play out on the wing, and he is certainly going to be a great player for the ABs. Throughout 2025, Quinn Tupaea also making the team alongside Caleb Clark, who some have argued hasn't had his best 2025 season, but he was one of the standout players for the All Blacks in 2024. So I do think that with that in mind, maybe the reasoning behind his selection. Will Jordan, Ruben Love, and also Sevu Reece, the last man in the All Blacks squad. Now, I have got a list here of players who were unavailable due to injury. That is Sam Darry, Asafo Moore, Ofa Tuangafasi, Stephen Perofeta, and also Peter Lakai, who I do think quite a few people were disappointed not to see in the first initial naming, but that is due to the injury. I'm not sure what the extent is of that yet, but it does mean that he has missed out, and instead they've got Karefi and Savia, and I do wonder what would have happened if Lakai was 100%. Would it have been one of those two who missed out, or perhaps would they have looked at someone like a Jacobson and replaced him in that case? So a few other names that did miss out on selection, Ngaitai Akoi and Josh Lord, I assume will be the two starting locks for the Māori All Blacks, unless of course Lord has got some sort of injury. We saw no Ethan Blackadder, which I do think surprised quite a few people, as since he has been back from his 17th injury, he has looked extremely strong. He was busy throughout that Super Rugby Pacific final. I've got the numbers here. He had the most carries out of any player with 19. He had the most meters gained across the whole game with 81. He was putting in massive hits. He made 16 tackles throughout that game. So if the selection was based off what happened in the final, you'd have to say Blackadder probably did do enough to make it in. But he misses out. Alongside him missing out, no AJ Lamb in this All Blacks environment. No Dalton Papali'i for the Blues. He did make a lot of tackles this year, although did have a lot of penalties against them alongside that. No Simon Parker due to his injury. I would have been very curious to see whether or not he would have snuck in had he been 100%. We also saw no Daniel Rona, a little bit unlucky to miss out on the outside, although saying that with Amoni Narawa also missing the cut of the 33-man squad, I think it's probably understandable why Rona did miss out as well. Also, no Leroy Carter. That was another name that was being thrown around quite a bit. I don't know whether or not that's based off what we saw in the final. Once again, it seems like maybe the squad was picked before said final with the fact that Blackadder was left out. But I do think 1 or 2 more years for Leroy in Super Rugby, and he will certainly be in that All Blacks environment as well. But nonetheless, that is the All Blacks squad for 2025, taking on the French throughout July, and then, of course, it will be expanded heading into the Rugby Championship. Do let me know what you thought of the squad in the comments down below. Who are you sad to see missed out? Who are you happy to see in this All Blacks squad? We're going to be covering the ABs all throughout the season, as well as my starting lineup and reserves that I'd like to have now that we've seen the squad announced. But thank you all very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all for the next one.